NASCAR is a sport that's constantly changing, and that's something one couldn't deny. Therefore, the fact that changes are coming for the 2023 season as well isn't really surprising. What is surprising, however, is the magnitude of these changes, or more specifically, what the drivers will experience in the new season. More different things are coming the drivers' way after the next-gen car was launched in 2022. And they must accommodate as soon as possible in order to win races and championships. As we mentioned, the latest major change in NASCAR was the next-gen car, which saw the light of day in 2022. The car was designed to be identical from team to team, but within the rulebook, there's wiggle room to make each car a little different than it actually is. That is why ahead of the 2023 season, NASCAR has made tweaks in the rulebook, and in this particular case, it's regarding the shims that mount between clips on the front chassis section. Prior to the previous season, teams could make shims up to 0.160 inches thick. This range was reduced to 0.100 inches beginning in 2023, making it more difficult for teams to adjust this specific segment of the car. As we all know, the shims play a huge role in the teams locating the front and rear clips during the installation, something that Brian Murphy of SHR spoke about. Furthermore, he added that the current location has a multitude of effects on overall performance, which is extremely important if you want to have a fast and reliable car out there. It's also worth noting that this is a move that was generally welcomed by NASCAR experts, including Brian Murphy. He has the opinion that the 0.160 inch range was just too enormous, and the 0.100 should have a much better application to the next-gen car. The rulebook currently reads, shims may be used between each respective front subframe and center section assembly bulkhead mount. The shims must be constructed of magnetic steel. The combined thickness of the shims on each respective bulkhead mount may be a maximum of 0.100 inch. While shim adjustments are an important step towards safety, they aren't helping as much as everyone hoped. The next-gen car has shown a variety of issues when it comes to stability and performance, which is why the drivers have expressed their displeasure with the vehicle and the safety of it. We've seen how a crash that didn't seem very serious sidelined Kurt Busch for the entire season, and ultimately forced him to retire and sign a deal as a part-time driver for 23XI Racing. That is why Brad Moran, the NASCAR Cup Series managing director, spoke about the changes that are bound to happen as the sport enters the 2023 season in a month, further emphasizing that the most important thing for NASCAR is the safety of the drivers. The car is going to have a slightly different look next year. The hoods, the noses are going to be different. There are some changes in the cooling louvers on the hood and things like that. That's all underway, and the aerodynamic testing has been done. All of the aerodynamic testing has been completed, and the manufacturers have already submitted their noses and hoods for the next season. But the performance of the car is not the major issue that has showcased itself in the previous season. We've seen some good racing from all of the drivers out there, but what we didn't see was increased safety, which is by far the most important thing in a sport like this. Apart from Kurt Busch, we've seen Alex Bowman suffer from a concussion as well, something that ruined his shot at advancing in the playoffs after a strong round of 16. Obviously, NASCAR has a lot on their hands when it comes to the safety of the car, and that's something that Brad Moran has furthermore spoken about, adding, of course, safety is a never-ending journey, and we continue to work on that every day. It'll never be done. But we've also been doing a lot of testing on the rear section of the cars, different clip designs, and some other slight changes to the center section. There will be quite a few changes going into 2023. One of the things that NASCAR has implemented heading into the 2023 season is that they went to a crash test facility and tested out new rear bumper structures, as well as rear clips. It seems like these parts have passed the test of durability, which is why they are going to be implemented from 2023 on. True, this is a huge improvement for the next-gen car, which has had major safety issues in its first season. But time will tell whether it will be enough. What is more than certain is that these are not enough for us to consider that NASCAR has solved the problem with the safety of their cars. Ever since the 2022 car has proven to be a safety hazard, NASCAR has worked on different solutions in order to get rid of this problem. But it seems like many of them have passed the test and the criteria to be implemented in the sport. And one huge reason for this is that NASCAR completes a majority of safety simulation tests throughout the year, something that Moran has spoken about adding. There have been thousands of safety simulation tests done throughout the year. We also did multiple on-track crash tests. All of those rules are penciled in. They are not rules yet because we don't put them until the end of the last race, but the teams are well aware of what is coming. A rear bumper structure as well is going to change. There's been quite a bit of work that's been done to the rear of the car. We've also been doing a lot more testing on the head surround and learning more about it and what other safety items we can work on. Why is NASCAR focusing so much on the rear end of the car, you may ask yourself? Well, it's very obvious that the concussions that Bowman and Busch suffered were because the rear end of the car hit the wall first. It was very obvious that this part of the car needed the most work, and with NASCAR acknowledging that this is a part that needs to be worked on the most, we've been reassured that the sport does indeed care for the safety of the drivers. After everything that's happened with the business model and the TV rights, as well as the SRX's increased independence from the sport, this is a massive reassurance for the drivers. The race teams know what is coming for the next season, and it seems like the tests have been completed successfully. With safety being increased for the next season, there is always going to be something that can be fixed or improved. But NASCAR is definitely moving in the right direction. One factor that speaks volumes about this is that the sport is trying to increase the horsepower for the next season. With increased safety comes increased horsepower. The next-gen car was supposed to ride with a 550 horsepower package, but during the testing, the drivers found out that this is far from enough, which is why NASCAR was forced to confirm that the cars will indeed race with 670 horsepower and a 4-inch spoiler for the 2022 season. Although the 670 horsepower package has proven itself to be a good one, it seems like the drivers and the fans would want the car to be a bit more equipped in this segment. But this is a segment that will likely fall on deaf ears when it comes to NASCAR. True, the speed of the car is practically the most important thing besides its safety, but that doesn't mean NASCAR should increase the power just for the sake of it. The 2023 season won't see changes like this, but the 2024 season may. According to Fox Sports analyst Bob Pockrass, NASCAR is hesitant to go beyond the 670 horsepower threshold with the tapered spacer because it would necessitate research and development on performance parts and components. Horsepower is something that will always draw the attention of the fans and the drivers, and discussions about whether it should be implemented or not are always going to be present. However, just because it seems tempting doesn't mean it should be done. By not increasing the horsepower of the engine, NASCAR is directly addressing the safety of the drivers, something that they were criticized for with the next-gen cars the previous season. That being said, we're in for a very interesting season ahead of us, one full of changes, but for the first time it seems like these changes are going to be positive ones. And NASCAR fans and drivers will be eager to see how they will play out on the field. What do you think about this whole situation? Let us know in the comments below.